Hey, it's Todd, Flavio, Pacific Residential Partner. So we're going to talk about what we think is going to happen for housing trends in the second half of 2023. You know, the first half was certainly volatile and interesting, but here's some things that we're looking at for the second half. So as we transition into the second half of this year, the housing market's still presenting opportunities and challenges for potential home buyers. So let's start by discussing housing inventory. This has by far been the biggest story of the year thus far. In the early part of 2023, the market was quite tight regarding inventory. However, we are venturing into the second half. We're seeing a noticeable uptick in housing inventory. Part of this is a combination of new construction into the market, as well as some existing homeowners deciding to sell. So we haven't seen anything dramatically improve, but we have seen some small upticks, and we expect that trend to generally continue. You know, the larger inventory means that buyers are going to have less options to choose from and face a little bit less competition maybe in the second half, but there is still tremendous pressure on bidding wars and competition. So let's talk about interest rates as to what we expect. So in the second half of this year, we do expect some volatility. So for the third quarter, I don't expect to see any significant changes in interest rates, but as we get to the fourth quarter, I think we'll start to see a downward trend with that continuing into 2024. So this volatility in the third quarter is really going to be because of the Federal Reserve taking measures to combat inflation and tightening monetary policy. So here's what we expect to happen with the housing market. You know, the housing market really doesn't exist in isolation. It's really impacted by broader economic trends and other implications. So for example, employment rates, stock market performance, general economic stability can all influence consumer confidence and in turn the housing market. So again, I don't think a lot of things are going to change in the third quarter, but there are a lot of factors and variables in the market right now with both consumers as well as inflation readings. So here are some tips that can help you take advantage of this tough market right now. You definitely want to get pre-approved for a mortgage to understand your budget and all the implications. You want to try to get actually approved up front, which is also going to have a dramatic impact on your offer and the seller accepting your offer. You have to be patient, but prepared to act quickly if the right opportunity arises. Do not get overly concerned with the long-term implication of interest rates on your mortgage. Focus more on the short term. Again, we're at 40-year highs for interest rates, which means there's a high likelihood that rates will not stay at a 40-year high for the duration of your mortgage period. You have to trust that values will continue to inch up in the Bay Area based on the strength of the job market and growth. And remember, the Bay Area is unlike any other area in the U.S. So when you hear a lot of U.S. surveys and economic readings and other indications, remember that the Bay Area is very different and very unique when they factor in all the other metropolitan areas. All right, so let's talk about one last thing that's really shaping up the housing market, and this is going to continue to play out over the next few years, and that's really the impact on remote work with housing preferences. So, you know, we saw in early COVID that a lot of employers offered flexibility with employees on working at home and outside of the office. So many companies to this day have adopted a hybrid or a full remote work schedule, which influences a lot of where people choose to live. So with this ability to work remotely, many individuals are still looking for homes in suburban areas, even rural areas, rather than densely populated cities. But let's keep in mind that some of these trends are really changing, especially in the Bay Area. In the Bay Area, there's an underlying trend occurring right now, which is to fight to get more employees back into the office, but also honoring flexible work conditions. So this is going to continue to play out over the next few years as employees and employers wrestle with what is acceptable for having employees in the office on a limited or a full-time basis. So there's also instances too where I've heard a number of stories of home buyers that purchased their home in early COVID because of the flexibility in remote working. And it worked out great, but what's happening now is some employers are demanding and mandating that employees are back in the office on a limited time. I've heard numerous stories of employees having to find new places to rent closer to work, and then having to rent out their homes that they purchased in pre-COVID. And that's going to continue to create implications as people rethink, how do I purchase a home that I can work remotely in, and what is my employer going to expect? So these are some of the housing trends that we're seeing, and some of the things that we're keeping an eye on the second half of this year that are certainly bound to influence the real estate market and people purchasing homes. So as always, can you continue to follow us on all of our social channels and let us know if you have any questions or if there's anything we can help you with. Thanks again.